Welcome aboard the Phoenician, the 41-foot Chris Craft Amerisport Diesel Express Cruiser. Built in 1989, the Phoenician is a safe, comfortable, and economical ocean-going vessel. With a 14-foot beam, she sports a roomy saloon. The spacious cockpit is ideal for entertaining or fishing, and there is ample storage. There is an ice maker and a sink in the cockpit, as well as a fresh water rinse-down faucet. The entire cockpit floor opens for convenient access to the engine compartment. The engines are powerful but economical 300 horsepower Volvo Penta V-drives, providing 12 knots of cruising speed at almost a half mile to the gallon and 8 knots at nearly 1 mile per gallon. With her 280-gallon fuel tanks topped off, she has a range of over 250 miles at 8 knots. The helm is comfortable and features a Fluxgate compass, GPS chart plotter, 2 depth sounders, and VHF radio. Down below there is a well-apportioned galley with a stainless steel deep double sink, pressurized fresh water, a marine drinking water filter, Princess stove, microwave, and refrigerator. The saloon includes a U-shaped dining area, a sofa that makes a bed, and a built-in CD stereo system which also connects to speakers at the helm station. The head has a marine toilet, sink, and fully enclosed separate shower. The aft cabin settee makes a queen-sized bed. The forward cabin, which can be closed off from the saloon by an accordion curtain, has a queen-sized V-berth, drawers, a hanging locker, and a sink. The Phoenician is a veteran ocean cruiser, recently logging over 3,000 nautical miles on our cruise through the Caribbean. For 8 months, she was home for our family of 6 people and a dog. Hi, I'm Captain Brett, the owner of the Phoenician, and I would like to invite you to join us now on the Voyage of the Phoenician. This is an actual nautical chart that we used during our voyage. From Hollywood, Florida, the black line carries us south to the Bahamas, across the Banks, across the Exuma Sound, through the Out Islands, across the Caicos Passage, through the Turks and Caicos Islands, down to the Dominican Republic, around the coast of the Dominican Republic, across the Mona Passage, along the southern coast of Puerto Rico, and off the chart into the Virgin Islands. Then we pick up the gold line, which carries us from San Juan, Puerto Rico, back up to the Dominican Republic, through the islands, north, all the way to Grand Bahama, and then north off the chart, all the way to Savannah, Georgia. And now, for the next 3,000 miles, let's let the video do the talking. The day after Thanksgiving was a beautiful day to start our adventure. As we pulled out of our slip, everyone was excited to be going. Even Sparky knew something special was happening. As we pulled out of the Harbor Island Marina into the Intercoastal Waterway, it would be 2 miles down the waterway to Baker's Haulover Inlet, where we would exit into the Atlantic. After we were established down the waterway, I called the family together. I wanted to explain to them what I had found when I woke up this morning and tried to start the engines. I then let Alan explain what he found when he went down into the engine compartment, and together we gave thanks to the Lord for His providence in taking care of us. As we approach Baker's Haulover Inlet, I'm about to learn an important lesson. Baker's Haulover Inlet has two jetties that extend out into the Atlantic. They protect the inlet from cross waves. However, when the waves are coming from the east, it funnels them right down the inlet. When you couple this with the fact that we were going through the inlet when the tide was going out against the waves, then you have a phenomenon where the waves set up short, steep, standing waves. They don't look dangerous because they don't really move and they don't break, but there's a lot of power there. And as you can see, I'm at idle speed as we go through the inlet. That's a mistake. We hit the second wave and it turned the bow to the side and the wave washed over the boat. Now, fortunately, we were in a stable vessel such as the Phoenician. If we'd been in a smaller vessel, it could have been dangerous. Of course, I immediately shoved the throttles forward and turned the boat back into the waves, and we were able to get out into the Atlantic and across the Gulf Stream. There were some mild waves crossing the Gulf Stream, but nothing significant. We got into a pod of dolphins that followed us, and my oldest daughter was terrified. She was standing there pointing at the dolphins, crying out, "Shark! Shark!" After we crossed the Gulf Stream and we approach the Keys, we have Gun Key on the left and Cat Key on the right. The water is absolutely beautiful, crystal clear. Notice we have to fly the yellow Q flag because we are entering the Bahamas waters for the first time. Now we've gone through the cut there between Gun Key and Cat Key. And we're now on the west side of Cat Key, where the Cat Key Marina is located. There's a lighthouse on the southern end of Gun Key that you saw. There's also a lighthouse on the west end of Cat Key that you will see momentarily. Here we are approaching the Cat Key Marina, and I have to call in on the radio to find out where they want me to go. This is the first time I've been to the Bahamas. I want you to notice this flag that they have, that they fly along with the Bahamian flag. It's the Cat Key flag. It's a picture of a cat standing on a key. Pretty cute, huh? There's the lighthouse, which stands at the end of the runway. Very popular to come to Cat Key by air. Here we are pulling up to the dock where the skipper, that's me, will get out and go and take care of our paperwork, take all the passports up to the immigration's office, pay our $140 for our cruising permit. And the sun sets over Cat Key at the end of our first day on our cruise. Next day, we're going to take off across the Bahama Banks to Nassau. Here, Alan and I are discussing our route for the day. The children have all been homeschooled all their lives. They've never attended school. This was just another part of their wonderful educational adventure. They were all required to keep journals, which it wasn't very difficult to get them to do that. something that they really enjoy doing, keeping journals of their activities and their adventures. You don't really know what to expect out on the banks, so everybody's got their life jackets on and we're ready to go. Actually, a very nice ride today across the banks. We're able to make good time. Well before evening, we're pulling into Nassau Harbor. Here we are on the east side of Nassau Harbor. Nassau Harbor is a big harbor. There's lots of big ships. The cruise ships come in to Nassau Harbor. Kind of make you feel small when you pull up beside some of these great big huge vessels. Here's the bridge that crosses over from New Providence Island over to Paradise Island. We're going to stay at the East Bay Marina, right under the bridge. See some of the damage caused by one of the hurricanes that come through here every now and then. And here we are at the East Bay Marina. There's not much in the way of amenities, but very friendly help. It's right there close to everything there in Nassau. You can rent a car and you can drive around the island. It's wonderful. Now here we are talking to some people about Olga. Just so happens that we're coming through the Bahamas when Hurricane Olga is also getting ready to come through the Bahamas, and everybody's concerned about what we're going to do when Olga comes. Here I am discussing with Jacqueline about what are we going to do, where are we going to go for Olga. Underneath the boat to swimming with the rays. He's going under to put a zinc on one of the propeller shafts. Well, we've explored Nassau and we've decided it's time to move on. So we're leaving East Bay Marina. We're going to go under the bridge there to Paradise Island. Going to go get some fuel at one of the marinas on the west side of the harbor. Here we are studying. The harbor has a shoal in the middle that has to be carefully navigated around, or you can run aground right there in Nassau Harbor on the west side. Now this is interesting. They drive that plane right up on the shore. There's a ramp, and they just drive that plane up onto the ramp, onto the shore, and then when they load up the passengers, they drive it right off into the water and get to the west of the bridge there, and off he will go. Bad way to fly around the Bahamas. Lots of dive boats operate out of Nassau. Here we are pulling up to a fuel dock, and of course, we've already done our exploring. We've stocked up on groceries and things for the boat. You can get just about anything you want here in Nassau. You may have to order it and wait 2 or 3 days for it to be flown in if you need a part for a genset or something. Now, we carried 90 gallons of fuel in these 15-gallon containers. That helped us extend our range a little bit. I didn't really know how we were going to find fuel. Here we are. Alan's filled up our tanks again for us so that we're topped off on our air tanks. Here's one of the fortifications that protected the west entrance to the harbor back when there were pirates roaming the islands. Just outside of the harbor and to the north, we come to Rose Island, which is an excellent place to stage for an early morning departure the next morning. In these shoaling waters, there's lots of shoals, lots of reefs. You really don't want to be riding around in these waters after dark. So the next morning, we're going to get up, we're going to leave Rose Island, we're going to go south to a break in the reef there on the banks, and then head down to Highborn Key. So here we are approaching Highborn Key. This was a very confusing entrance. We probably sat out here trying to figure out how to get through that cut there. That those, if you noticed those, that range that was set up. Still, it was very confusing. And had Alan posted out there, and hadn't really had time to learn how to read the water yet. But we made it in. It's a beautiful place there at Highborn Key. Unfortunately, we found the people that ran the marina to be very unfriendly and unhelpful. So we didn't stay there. We just simply went in and walked around, and I didn't really like it very much, so we gassed up, took on some more fuel, because I wasn't sure at what point we were not going to be able to find fuel. As it turns out, you can get diesel fuel all the way down to Ackland Islands. Didn't know that really at the time. Now this is cruising at its best. Hopping down the islands, you can spend months, literally, on the banks, cruising the Exumas. It's just one beautiful little island after another. There's all sorts of interesting things to see and to do. The water's beautiful. It's about 8 feet deep. Of course, you do have to know where you're going, because it's 8 feet deep in some places, but in some places it's only about a foot deep, and you can run aground. It pays to keep your charts on hand and keep a close eye out. Here we are approaching Sampson Key. This is a beautiful island. Spent some time there on Sampson Key. Here we are at Staniel Key. And here, you're going to see just a glimpse of the Thunderball Grotto. Notice that island, that little island there is hollow. We'll talk more about it in a minute. Lots of sharks here. These are just nurse sharks, though. They're relatively harmless. I think you'd probably pretty much have to step on one, or you'd have to pretty much pester him to get him to bite you. Sure gave Jacqueline a scare, though. We had been over to Thunderball Grotto, diving in the grotto. And we came back to the boat, and Jacqueline jumped out. There's tremendous currents here. The water comes in through Staniel Key Cut and comes by the marina there at about 6 or 7 knots. And it's a really strong current. It's a dangerous place to get in and out of if you're not real careful. And she jumped out of the dinghy there to rinse off, and the current was carrying her away. So she reached down to put her fins on, and when she looked down in the water, one of those big old nurse sharks swam right underneath her. And of course, this was her first opportunity of swimming with the sharks, so she was a little bit upset. She made a little bit of noise, and we spent a few days at Staniel Key, and now it's time to leave. We've been everybody's still talking about Olga, and Olga's just kind of parked out here. This time, I'm going through this cut. I'm carefully monitoring the tide. I'm catching it when the tide's coming in the cut instead of out. And we're catching it at high tide, too. Now, this Thunderball Grotto, this is where they made the movie Thunderball. the James Bond movie. That island is hollow inside, and you have to swim underwater to get up in there. But if you can wear your dive gear and you swim up in there, and it's just absolutely fascinating. Once again, if the current is coming through, it can be a 6-knot current. It can be kind of dangerous, so it's not something to play with. And here we are approaching Staniel Key Cut. This can be an interesting cut, but like I say, we picked our times. The tide is high, and it's at slack tide, and we didn't have any trouble getting through the cut. We crossed the Exuma Sound to Cat Island. Here, of course, my wife was taking advantage of the fact that Cat Island has a laundry. Just a beautiful place to spend a few days there at Cat Island. If you pick the right time, you can be just about the only person there. And wonderful amenities, wonderful island to explore. After Cat Island, then we headed south to Long Island. It's quite a little jump to Clarencetown Harbor. Here we are pulling out from the marina. They've got the little entrance into the marina there. You have to go up a creek, and they've got it marked so that you can stay in the deep water. Clarencetown Harbor, or the Flying Fish Marina. This is getting pretty far out. This is the last marina that you can find in the Bahamas. There are no more marinas, and there's still hundreds of miles to go to get to Turks and Caicos. But it's a nice marina. They're working on it. You can get fuel there. There's also a nice little store on the island. There's actually a couple of little stores, and so it's a good place to, because from here there's just not going to be any place to purchase anything at all. You're on your own till you get to Turks and Caicos. So this is when we made sure that our extra fuel tanks were topped off, and that our lockers were topped off with last minute things that we need to replenish our food lockers. A lot of places, a lot of things to do, places to see on Long Island. It's a big island. A lot of history there. Now we're planning. This is the stage where we really got a plan, because can't afford to have any mistakes on this next section here, because we got a long way to go. I had heard that you could get some diesel fuel on Crooked Island, and so I wanted to take every opportunity to stop and get fuel. So we did stop at Crooked Island, and there was a truck that came out to an old pier there and gave us some fuel. Then we went to Mayaguana, and then on to Providenciales, or Provo as they call it. Here we are on the south side of Provo. We've crossed the Caicos Banks to the Caicos Marina and Shipyard. Friendly people there. Got mechanics there that can, of course, you certainly don't want to be in a hurry, because everything has to be ordered. Has to be shipped in. After a few days at Provo, we crossed the banks and across the Turks Island Passage, where there's a lot of whales. We didn't see any. We really wanted to. We went to Big Sand Key, which is the southernmost island that has a good anchorage in the Turks Islands. This is the stopping off place before you cross into the open Atlantic, just plain old open Atlantic Ocean, for a long way across the ocean down to the Dominican Republic. So we stayed there, and then we crossed just about dark and made the crossing during the night to Luperon, the Dominican Republic. Got there first thing in the morning. It's a little bit rough. This can be a challenging little entrance here. As you can see, there's reefs that those waves crash up on those reefs, and it's every Every year there are 2 or 3 vessels that wind up on those reefs and are destroyed. So you really need to know what you're doing getting into Le Perron. Of course, we used the GPS the whole trip, and the GPS was just flawless. I was so pleased with the performance of the GPS. We knew exactly where we were at all times. It was just amazing. Well, we've made it through the hard part now, and now we're inside. Le Perron Harbor is probably one of the favorite hurricane holes of the Caribbean. You come in and you turn to the right, and then it's just this beautiful, placid water. And there's always dozens of cruisers there. Some people stay there. They just live there. And if there's going to be a hurricane coming, there'll be a lot of people that'll come in and stay in Le Perron Harbor. Spent some time in the Dominican Republic. It's a long haul then around the Dominican Republic. We pulled into the Bahia de Samaná and got some fuel there, and then to Punta Cana. Now Punta Cana is a nice place. Got a nice marina there. You can get fuel. We crossed the Mona Passage in the middle of the night. Was stopped there off of Cabo Rojo, Puerto Rico by a customs vessel, and they spent a couple of hours going through the vessel looking for drugs or guns, who knows. Now notice this picture right here at Puerto del Rey Marina on the east coast of Florida. If you ever get a chance to see the movie Captain Ron, you will see that scene right there. That marina where we stayed in Puerto Rico is the marina where they filmed a lot of the movie Captain Ron. And that little boathouse there, that little dock house, there you will see in the movie. Here we are at Puerto del Rey Marina, and this is obviously my daughter, who was taking videos, was fascinated by this old masted ship here that obviously got thrown up on the shore during one of the hurricanes here. Now here we are going down our pier, and here's the Phoenician parked at the pier there in Puerto del Rey in Fajardo, Puerto Rico. Isn't she a beauty? She has already done the cruising, over 1,500 miles. And she's, of course, in better shape now than she was, because when you're living on a boat and you're cruising on it, you know, you find every little thing that's wrong, and you have to fix it. So, lots of things. I mean, we replaced a lot of wiring. We replaced lights. Notice that anchor. Notice that winch, that windlass there. That is a heavy-duty manual windlass. Those electric windlasses, they just aren't. At least the one we had on there, she gave out on us pretty quick. But here in Puerto Rico, I was able to pick up a manual windlass that is a powerful manual windlass. And installed some things to help us hold our tanks, dive tanks. I was able also to install another depth sounder. That made me a lot more happy to have an extra depth sounder installed, so now I had a backup for that. 2 GPSs. We had the GPS in the dash, and then I also carried a little handheld. You notice I was able to install a little holder for the handheld. The little handheld GPS works great. We've probably been on this vessel for 4 or 5 months now, and she's just wonderful. The 3 girls sleep in the aft cabin. Alan sleeps on that sofa bed there, and Jacqueline and I sleep with the dog up in the forward cabin. Got to rent a car in Puerto Rico. It's a beautiful countryside, and there's just no telling what you're liable to see. Even cattle just wandering around on the roads. some ways it's very modern, in other ways it's very much backwards. Here we have the traditional Puerto Rican dancers dancing at one of the cultural festivals. We were able to attend lots of things we were able to do. Of course, that gets everybody in the mood to do a little dancing. It's good exercise doing that Puerto Rican style dancing. We use the computer a lot. I actually used Nobletech's software for charting, and we did a lot of our route planning on the computer. We had lived in Puerto Rico once before, and so we had lots of friends, and it was really fun for the weeks that we spent there in Puerto Rico to be able to take friends out. The girls had friends that they had known from years before that we were able to take with us and go and do exploring on different islands in the Virgin Islands. We hosted some parties. Phoenician's a wonderful vessel for entertaining. Look at this little island. Isn't that amazing? That's the whole island. Look at this one. This one kind of looks like a rabbit when you look at it from afar off. Now this is the island of Icacos. It's a small island. There's some nice reefs around it for diving or snorkeling. A lot of conch here, if you like conch. I personally can't stand conch. Now Culebra, now that is an island. I could live on Culebra, and we actually did. We spent weeks at Culebra. It's just a fabulous place. Now I say most of the you definitely do not want to drive around these islands in the dark, but we spent so much time here at Culebra that there actually were some really tricky places, but I knew them so well that I could do them in the dark. We would go up into some areas, there were some anchorages that were just fabulous anchorages, and you'd be entirely protected 360 degrees, and you have to snake your way up into these little 8-foot deep little channels to get up into these little anchorages. But we could actually do it in the middle of the night. We'd done it so much. And here we are with friends that we were able to take out to some of this is a little island called Culebrita. It's a wonderful place, a lighthouse, an old abandoned lighthouse that you can climb up to, and this over to the east, you can't see it from here, but there's something they call the jacuzzis, and it's because it's a rock formation that the water it's coming from the ocean side. As it crashes up against the side of the cliff there, water sprays up over the cliff into this little pool, so it's always fresh, but it's not flowing. It's just the water sprinkles into this pool and keeps it full. And during the day, about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it gets warm, just like a jacuzzi bath. And it's just it's about a 20-foot long little pool there, and you can go and sit. It's like being in a jacuzzi. And it's completely surrounded by rocks, so you can't even see. And nobody can even see you. I would have never found it, but somebody told me where it was. And we went over there and hunted it down and found it. Just a fascinating place, this little island there, Culebrita. Wonderful wall there to go diving on. Saw sharks and barracuda and of course a lot of the reef type fish. It's Easter! So we're going to have an Easter egg hunt. Who would have thought you could have an Easter egg hunt on a boat? But here they are, having a ball. Is there one in the microwave? Why, yes, there is. We are getting ready to do some nighttime fishing. Tell you what, that dinghy is an absolute must on these little islands. With that dinghy, you can just go anywhere. We purchased a brand new 6 horsepower Mercury 4-cycle to go on it, so it doesn't require any oil mixture. It's just, you just use this plain old gasoline. That was a good choice. Very easy to take care of. It's a good combination. It just worked flawlessly for us the whole time. What, after spending 8 months doing this kind of stuff, it sure was hard to go back to work here in Atlanta. We actually had family that flew down to Puerto Rico, and we were able to pick them up at the airport, take them out, go to various islands and do interesting things. It was a nice bonus to have family come down and join us. Here's Dewey Harbor in Culebra. Here's the island of Vieques. The Navy has a bombing range on Vieques so a lot of the island is unused except by the Navy. Wow, I wish I could still do that. Beautiful water for swimming. We've tooled around the Virgin Islands long enough. We're going to ease our way on back up towards the States. We've got to stop in San Juan for a while. Notice the fortifications here near San Juan Harbor. There's probably one of the most famous old castles in the Caribbean, El Morro. From here we've got a long haul we're going to take after we leave San Juan. This is, I believe, was our probably our second longest single leg. We went all the way to Luperón. You can't do that going the other way because you've got the wind and the waves against you. But going back to the west, you can do it. Now that aircraft you just saw was a Dominican Republic Air Force plane that came out, flew around us several times. I guess he was checking us out. You recognize this again? Here we are back at Luperón Harbor. Now it's another long stretch all the way across the Atlantic to, this time we're going to go from the west side once again because of the winds and the currents. We can go around the French Keys there and up onto the banks and get to Provo. We liked the Caicos Marina there so much we decided to stay there again and had a wonderful time. We went to church services there on Provo. lively church services. And the diving in Turks and Caicos Islands is just fabulous. And there's just no telling what kind of fish you're going to see. We saw barracuda. We took some quite a few yellow snapper for meals. That's really something. Take a yellow snapper right fresh and go put it in the pan and cook it up right then and there. Of course, we took Sparky out to Smith Reef here one time and took him out. We were snorkeling. He was snorkeling along, and suddenly I turned around and I looked, and there was this 3.5-foot barracuda that was following Sparky, and I thought, you know, this just might not be such a good idea. Alright, we spent some time at West Caicos as well, which now, diving at West Caicos, oh, man, it's right there at the wall. You can drop your anchor or hook up to one of the mooring buoys that they've got parked out there, and you're only about 50 yards offshore, and you're diving in about 60 feet of water, and then you swim out about 100 yards and it drops to like 2,000 feet. It's just amazing. You swim out over there and it gives you an eerie feeling. Now here we are, we're leaving the Caicos shipyard marina. We're out on the banks, and there's Provo to our right, and now we've gone to West Caicos Island, and here we are anchored at West Caicos. We're going to go do some diving, and that's just, you swim out over that wall and it's like it just drops off into nothing. It's just amazing. It was a long haul up to Rum Cay. Here we are at Rum Cay. It was notice the wind in the background. It was a gale blowing, and it was kind of rough getting in because we had the wind to our backs as we were approaching Rum Cay, but we had to make the turn to go up into Sumner Point, and therefore, for a few minutes there, we had the waves coming across our starboard bow. It was kind of interesting there for a while. From Rum Cay, then of course, we had to stop at Mayaguan, but I didn't get any pictures there. That was awful. Another day we'll talk about that. This was a nice long haul from Rum Cay, but we decided to leave during the day, one day, to head towards Highborn Cut at the top of the Exuma Sound, and we wanted to do some fishing because we heard fishing was pretty good on the west side of Rum Cay, and didn't get to do a lot of fishing. I would have liked to have done more fishing, but we had, you know, 4 girls, 4 ladies on board, and they just didn't care for the fishing at all. When you got out here like this, where you were just sitting and the waves were making the boat, oh, they got sick. And so they didn't let us do much fishing. But I said, now we're going to do some fishing here at Rum Cay. And sure enough, it didn't take us very long before Alan snagged something. Of course, everybody starts to get a little bit excited, especially Sparky, boy, when he could see something was out there in the water. He climbed right up to he was going to jump in the water and go after it. He was, there he goes. He's ready to go for it. That is some good eating. We had a wonderful meal that night. Fresh tuna. And here's the angler that snagged him. Here we are, it's nighttime. We did a lot of cruising at night because it just works out better that way. You go, if you're going to take a long trip across an open expanse of water, you go at night, you get there the next morning, you got plenty of sunlight. You need the sunlight to get in. Now, the Highborn Key Cut's a nice cut to go across. It's very easy to get through. There's a lot of water there. We didn't stay at Highborn Key Marina. We just got some fuel and then we went out and just started staying at the islands. We would just go and anchor at one of these little islands. And that was just a lot of fun. Just go hang out at the islands, do some fishing. Here we are on Leaf Key. Now check out these little guys. They're not that little. These are iguanas. Of course, Sparky, he's a very curious dog. Of course, he's not going to hurt anything, so you don't want to let your dog up on these islands if there's any chance that they're going to harass the iguanas. Of course, my Sparky is such a chicken, I knew he wasn't going to be harassing anything, but you really don't want dogs on these islands because they'll harry the iguanas and they might damage them. If they bite them, they could hurt the iguanas. This is Norman's Key. There was a DC-3 one time that was trying to land on Norman's Key and he didn't quite make it. And that was a lot of fun to go out. And we took the whole family out and did some snorkeling, and then the boys and I, we went and did some diving around. There's a shark that hangs out underneath the airplane. It's really cool to go out and dive inside. We climbed, I dove down inside this airplane. It was a submerged airplane. Pretty cool. Sometimes it's hard to fish for the birds that get out there and they want to take your bait off your hook. Well, eventually you have to start heading on back home, so I went back to Nassau and spent a few days at Nassau. Drove around on Paradise Island. A lot of things to do in Nassau. Did some diving. We got some video of Jacqueline and I and Alan all diving. Got some underwater footage that was taken. Don't have any of that with on this DVD. Then we head up to Grand Bahama, around the Berry Islands and all the way up to the west end to the old Bahama Bay Club. Here we are leaving Nassau. Notice this old, I wonder if that's a Phoenician. Here we got one Phoenician seeing another Phoenician. Headed east again. Back through the, we saw a water spout out there. That was kind of scary, but it never got close to us. It was several miles away. Here we are at the old Bahama Bay Club. Absolutely beautiful marina and resort. Snorkeling trail just right off the beach here that is just world-class snorkeling, and there's excellent diving not far offshore. Tell you, their groundskeeper here, I mean, he is just world-class quality groundskeeping at this place. Now from here we had this was our longest trip, all the way from Grand Bahama, West End, all the way to Jacksonville. And quite often you cross the Gulf Stream and it'll be just as rough as can be. But I tell you, this whole trip, like 36 hours, whatever it was just beautiful. It was just like this the whole way, or even less. Sometimes the water was so calm it looked like it had oil on it. I tell you, there's just no better way to see a sunset than out in the middle of water like this. The girls did a lot of driving for us so that Jacqueline and I could enjoy the trip. And here we are approaching Jacksonville, a lot of shipping. In fact, we actually turned in to the Jacksonville Harbor entrance and then had to turn out of the way of a ship that thought he was bigger than we were and that he ought to have the right of way, and I certainly didn't argue with him. After we fueled up and spent a day in Jacksonville, then we went on up to Savannah, and here we are on the Ogeechee River.
In February 2004, Captain Brett spent a week in Havana, Cuba, speaking with church leaders about the condition of families in Cuba. As a result, the Homeschool Advantage has an invitation to come and teach God's Plan for a Righteous Man seminars to island churches. From Key West to Havana is only 90 miles. We can carry a ministry team of 6 people, plus crew, aboard the Phoenician, the 43-foot diesel express cruiser, but only with the financial and logistic support of a ministry team. Would you like to be a part owner of the Phoenician? For only $500 per month, you can have a 10% ownership in this spacious vessel. Cruise with your family, entertain guests and business clients, go deep-sea fishing, scuba diving, all for a fraction of the cost of owning and maintaining a vessel of this size. And at the same time, you will be enabling the Homeschool Advantage to take groups of missionaries to work in Cuba. The music you hear playing is original Cuban music from a CD recorded by a Cuban pastor's wife, titled Dueño de mi Amor. Anyone who comes out to Green Acres Farm to look at the photographs from Cuba and discuss the missions project will receive a free copy of this CD, which is only available from the Homeschool Advantage. Give Captain Brett a call at 678-570-2195 or visit Homeschool Advantage website at www.homesschooladvantage.us and click on the link titled God's Plan for Cuba.